Hey, let me tell you a story about a man who trusted sound more than people. A man who believed noise could not lie. His name is Eli Navarro. He repairs broken audio for a living. Quiet hands, patient eyes. Nights spent under a warm lamp with dust turning slow in the air. He brings home a radiogram from an estate sale. Walnut skin, glass scale with ghostly numbers. Tubes like sleeping fireflies. He cleans the contacts, checks the capacitors, breathes once, and turns it on. The room blooms with a warm hum, a low meadow of static, a gentle chorus of things waking after a long winter. The dial glides under his fingers. Stations rise and fall like distant towns seen from a night train. But most of what he hears is the ocean of between, the honest hiss that carries every secret and refuses to tell. Eli is not superstitious. He trusts circuits and physics. He believes in drift and skip and ducting. He does not believe in omens. He believes in maintenance. He sets the radiogram on the floor, sits cross-legged with a notebook, writes the date, writes the time, writes the tube lineup like a ritual of little truths. The city outside rolls over and sleeps. The refrigerator ticks. A pipe somewhere in the wall clears its throat. The hour grows thinner, and the dial settles at a number he does not recognize. Not a clear station, not dead air. A shallow breath under the sea of noise. He leans closer. The cloth over the speaker smells like attic paper and old books. The breath remains, faint and patient. Eli tells himself he is hearing the building through the cabinet, the elevator cables, the neighbor to doors down, his own chest reflected back through wood and wire. He waits. The breath does not rush. It simply exists, like tide leaning toward shore. At 3:07, the static gathers itself into breath. Not a voice yet. Only the rise and fall of lungs. Eli leans in. The cloth over the speaker smells like attic paper and old books. He tells himself that he is hearing the building through the casing, the elevator, the neighbor in the next unit, his own chest reflected back through wood and wire. The breath repeats, then sinks. He inhales. It inhales. He holds. It holds. He exhales. It lags half a second behind like an echo learning to walk. His skin tightens. His mind starts to label. Artifact, flutter, feedback, then stops labeling and listens. The breath becomes syllables, small and rough, as if the mouth has dust on it. Wither for tomorrow. The woman says, coastal fog before sunrise. A two-car collision on the bridge just after 6. Names withheld. Eli writes it down because that is what he does. He writes and he does not argue with the page. Morning comes and fog threads the river in pale bands. At 6:19 sirens find the air. Not near, not far, just present like a hand on his back. Eli pours coffee and refuses to be impressed. Coincidences love attention, he says in his head. Coincidence is a stray dog that follows anyone who feeds it. That night he is back on the floor with a notebook and a new pencil. The breath arrives like tide, patient, inevitable. The woman speaks more clearly. A house fire on a street 3 neighborhoods away. A missing child found asleep in a closet behind a stack of winter coats. The words are said the way news is said, clean and without perfume. Eli closes his eyes and listens for the seams. He wants the trick. He wants the wire, the relay, the rebroadcast. He wants the rational door he knows he can open. The hour ends, and the radio exhales back into ocean. His apartment smells like dust and ozone. He turns out the lamp and lies on the rug beside the cabinet. The wood is warm against his forearm. The tubes tick as they cool. He tells no one. Eli is a man who carries sound like others carry prayer. He goes to work and cleans interviews until they fit inside the box of politeness. He removes chair squeaks, sands the throat clears. lays down room tone under a mayor who says he cares too often. He believes in craft, the way careful hands can make ugly things smooth. The day ends and he walks home through a city that has decided to keep its lights low. When he opens his door, the apartment smells like dust and ozone. The radiogram sits where he left it, the dial like a sleeping eye. On the third night, he tries to ask questions without words. A foolish game, but humans are built for it. He shapes his breath into patterns, to short inhales and one long exhale. The breath inside the radio mirrors him, then breaks the mirror. The woman inhales when he exhales, then inhales again, then says his street name, not the number, just the name like a fingertip touching a map. Eli feels his scalp tighten. He whispers that anyone could guess a common street. He whispers that the mind is a ventriloquist. The radio gives him tomorrow in a tone that does not care whether he believes. A transformer failure near the river at noon. A line of traffic stalling like a held breath. A phone that will ring twice with no one there to own the silence. He writes. He circles the time. He underlines the river. The day happens the way water happens. Obedient to gravity and indifferent to witnesses. A transformer pops and pigeons scatter over the river. His bus idles in a line of red lights. The phone rings in the afternoon and no voice arranges itself on the other end. He says hello twice and hears only the soft industry of a machine that is not speaking to him. He writes that down too. He records everything in the notebook. Neat lines, tidy numbers, calm handwriting that keeps fear in a small cage. The fourth night, he sets up a recorder. Simple loop from the speaker to a portable deck. He checks levels. The needles sit like birds on a wire. The woman speaks. The needles dance. When the hour ends, he rewinds and hears room tone and nothing else. Not empty tape, but the shape of silence where words would live. As if the tape respected the secret by erasing it. He tries again with a different deck. A different head, a different path, each time the same absence. He wants to be angry and finds only curiosity dressed as patience. By the end of the week, the woman is reading him instead of the city. Small details at first. Coffee spilled on the rug near the window. The song you almost remembered on the walk home. The way you tap your thumb when you pretend to be calm. Then the private archive. The box under the bed with letters you never mailed. The photograph in the second drawer under manuals and batteries. Eli sits on the floor with his hands open like someone waiting for rain. The voice waits too. She always waits. She seems to understand that silence is courtesy. Tomorrow you will hear your own voice, she says, not as a threat and not as mercy, just as a line on a map. The radio goes quiet without turning off. Eli sits until dawn and listens to the honest noises of the building. The elevator yawning between floors, a neighbor laughing into a phone, a faucet ticking as it cools. He thinks about carrying the radio to the river and gifting it to the dark. He thinks about selling it back to the estate man and calling it a bad fit. He thinks about faith, the secular kind, the kind that lets you return to a practice that does not promise anything and yet gives you back the shape of yourself. The next night arrives like a train that seems slow on the clock and sudden in the bones. At 3:05, the lamp is a small moon and the window the darker square inside the dark. He turns the volume a little higher and hears not breath this time, but tape hiss. Thin and even like snow falling in a memory, and then he hears himself. Not the voice he uses to ask a caller to repeat a year. Not the voice the clerk hears when he orders groceries. A version of himself that has traveled. His name comes first, Eli. Then a list that is not a list. The streetlight that will burst at dawn outside the bakery. The pigeons that will rattle like spilled marbles. The voicemail that will arrive tomorrow from a number with no name. The water in a wall that a man will ignore until plaster bows under the patient weight of a leak. He does not speak. He lets the hour play him like a slow instrument. And when the voice fades, he stands and feels the floor tilt. Not dangerous, just remembered. As if Wood is thinking about trees again. The next morning, the world behaves like it has not heard what he heard. The bakery light bursts and no one notices. The pigeons scatter like coins someone kicked. The voicemail arrives with only air inside, and Eli feels the hour like a bruise. He keeps his eyes open too long. When he blinks, the after image of the dial stays behind his eyelids. That night, he decides not to listen. He swears it in a whisper. He unplugs the radiogram, leaves the cord coiled on the floor like a sleeping snake, and walks to the window. The city hums with 1,000 small lives that forget their own noises. He almost believes he is free until 3:07, when the air changes shape. Not a sound yet, but a pressure in the ribs, like a note too low to hear. The cord moves a little. The radio clicks itself on, and the light behind the dial blooms like a small eye remembering how to open. Eli watches and feels the gravity of it, the way you feel the sea before you see it. The voice is slower now. The woman says his name again, but softer, like she is practicing it. She says, "You are becoming clearer." And he wants to laugh, but the laugh hides behind his teeth. He says nothing. He only listens. She tells him what he did today. She tells him what he thought about while crossing the street. She tells him the sentence he never said out loud when he looked at the empty chair in the kitchen. The air smells like dust and hot copper. Eli's notebook lies open beside him, every page neat, every line ruled. He touches the pencil and the voice says, "Stop writing. You already did that." The notebook pages begin to curl at the edges, as if something warm is breathing on them. He checks the recorder from the night before, rewinds, presses play. The speaker whispers a different tape, his own voice reading back what she said, word for word. Same pauses, same rhythm, same mistakes. The same sentence, "Stop writing. You already did that." The breath leaves his chest the way wind leaves a sail, slowly, as if deciding whether to return. The next day the radio hum deepens. The bulbs behind the dial glow almost red. He feels heat on his knees. The woman says, "You are hearing yourself from tomorrow. You always arrive late." Eli tries to speak, but his throat is dry. He forces the words through like pushing wire through a knot. He asks, "Who are you?" The silence answers first. Then the woman says, "I am what remains when sound forgets its source." Eli laughs once, broken, like static with teeth. He pulls the plug, but the hum stays. He steps back. The voice continues. The cord coils by itself, slow and deliberate, wrapping around the base like a snake reclaiming its warmth. The glow fills the room until every shadow becomes skin. The woman speaks again, closer. Not through the speaker now, but behind his ear. She says, "You built this path, Eli. Every recording, every breath, every sound you cleaned and saved. They all had to go somewhere. And you tuned yourself to the place where they live." He shakes his head, but the air moves with him, heavy and elastic. The voice softens again, saying, "You will finish this transmission, and then you will rest." The radio flickers, a pulse in time with his heart. The static rises until it feels like rain inside his skull. He reaches forward as if to steady it, but the sound rushes through him, filling every corner with fragments of his own life. His mother's laugh, the crackle of old vinyl, the echo of his name through every apartment he ever left. When the noise stops, the room is empty except for the radiogram, still glowing faintly, the dial pointing nowhere. The next morning, neighbors complain about a low hum in the walls, but no one finds its source, only a faint voice repeating, "Don't turn it off. Stay close for the next nightmare." And if you want to hear what comes after the static, make sure you subscribe.